Infinite, endless, limitless. All words used to describe our oceans, yet we now know none are correct. Quite the opposite, in fact. The oceans we love and turn to for our food, sport, and fantasy are dying.
One thing that everybody seems to be able to come back to and look at is when the levels of carbon dioxide rise, we're also seeing a concurrent rise in temperatures, both in the ambient temperature of the air and also in the water. If anybody has any doubts about what happens when the water temperature rises, just take a look at the formation of the hurricanes and tropical storms that have swept across the Caribbean into the Gulf just in the last 3 years. When those storms hit the Gulf now, which has a water temperature that in some cases has spiked as high as 88 degrees, it's just like pouring gasoline on a fire.
Global climate change, overfishing, pollution, and a general malaise has driven these treasures to the brink of disaster, and there may be no way to reverse the trend.
I don't know of any place that it's not happening. It's certainly happening off the coast of California. The Sea of Cortez is a shadow of what it used to be like. Areas in the Pacific coral reefs are in decline. Caribbean coral reefs are nothing like what they were 30 years ago. It's happening everywhere. The fundamental underlying problem with the environment is population, and any environmental movement or discussion of environmental change and what can be done about it is disingenuous if it doesn't discuss or at least address population, and nobody's really talking about that very much. But that's the fundamental problem. If the per capita increase in carbon dioxide goes down a little bit, but we put 7, 8, 10 billion people on the planet, it's still going to put way more carbon dioxide in the atmosphere than the oceans can handle. Most people are now pretty well convinced that there is something called climate change happening. The evidence is irrefutable. Things are warming up. I think that what we should do about climate change is still quite controversial, and it's somewhat rightly so. The planet is returning from an ice age. We're 20,000 years in the recovery from an ice age. Even if we weren't here, we'd be warming up. Temperatures would be rising. We are exacerbating that dramatically by putting greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, especially carbon dioxide. And where the ocean is concerned, I think climate change is an argumentative issue. But the important thing is that putting carbon dioxide in the atmosphere has another very important effect on ocean chemistry. It causes the ocean to become more acidic. And when the ocean becomes acidic to a certain point, all the animals that create calcium carbonate shells, things like coral reefs, animals that have shells, are going to be unable to create those shells. I think people should understand that at any one point in time, their first experience with an environment is their baseline, and they're going to see decline from that point on. It doesn't mean it hasn't just started. It doesn't mean this is a new thing. The environment has been declining for hundreds of years, and it's accelerating, and it's accelerating in direct proportion to population growth. And if you really want to, marshal your efforts against something, population growth is probably the most important issue the environments face. The environment is constantly changing. It's going to continue to change. The issue is really not so much is the ocean going to survive? It's going to survive. I mean, maybe we'll have intelligent jellyfish swimming around in there 10 million years from now, but it's going to survive. But the issue is whether it's going to be acceptable to us, because we're the ones observing it. And is this the ocean that we want to have? Do we want to have an ocean filled with jellyfish and algae, or do we want to have an ocean filled with, sharks and tuna? That's up to us.
So why is it we seem incapable of doing what we know must be done?
I have reluctant hope that people will come to their senses. But again, there is an imperative here now that really cannot wait much longer. If we tip much further over on particularly on the carbon dioxide percentages, I think at that point the ecological balance of the planet is going to just shift, and I don't know if we can bring that back.
I just don't know.